Alrighty, so I want to share Psalms 56, 3-4. And it says, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you, in God whose word I praise. In God I trust, and I am not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me?" So I just want to say, I don't know your situation. You may be struggling with something where you're afraid. You might have to make a decision where you're unsure of what, step to take. Maybe your doctor's told you something, or maybe you're just preoccupied because of everything that is going on globally. You're like sick of it, and you don't know what to do. You don't know where to put your trust, And here, I love the whole book of Psalms because there's just these verses that come from the heart of David where, if anything, he was the most valid to be afraid because his life was being prosecuted. He went through wars, and, he was always under attack. But what we can see is that in the midst of all that, in the midst of all the chaos, his faith and his trust was put in God. And we clearly see it here. It says, "In God I trust, I am not afraid." And, maybe it's so easy for me to tell you, don't be afraid. And maybe you're like, it's easier said than done. How can you tell me not to be afraid when I'm going through this situation, or when my doctor has told me this, or when, whatever it can be. But, when you put your complete trust in God, you feel that peace that surpasses understanding. And even with that said, putting your trust in God is not just saying I'm going to trust God, but it's also putting it into action. It's striving to completely give everything to God, every part of us, and trusting that He has something better, and that He knows more than we do, and that He has the best for us. We see it clearly in the Old Testament with the people of Israel, where God literally took them out of slavery. He had a big plan for them. He knew better for them. He literally took them out of slavery, out of Egypt, into walking them into the promised land. But in the middle of that, they were afraid. In the middle of that, even though God was doing all this miracles for them, they lacked faith because they weren't putting their faithfulness in God. They weren't putting their eyes in God. They were putting their eyes on the circumstances, on what they saw. They were walking for miles and miles. Maybe they were tired, and they thought they wouldn't have food, or whatever it could be, because they were putting their eyesight on what their situation was telling them. And I think that's something that we do all the time when we're going through something difficult, or where there's this certain situation present in our lives. We put our focus on what society is telling us. We put our focus on what our situation is saying. But what if we decided to put our focus in God, to follow Him, to take up His yoke, and I'm kind of speechless, but to be able to completely put your trust in God, is to completely give up everything and put it in His hands, literally. And you will see how that peace that surpasses understanding, is placed in your heart through the Holy Spirit. He will guide you. He will literally help you take the right path. He will help you make the right decisions. He will provide wisdom. He will provide that peace that surpasses understanding, like I was saying. And it's just incredible to see this part of David's life where he was going through persecutions. His life was under attack, like I was saying, but in the middle of that, he was not afraid, because he had his trust in God. And I just want to encourage you. I want to encourage myself in the middle of whatever situation you might find yourself. It could be with your job, it could be with school, it could be with something that doctors are telling you, or even with this pandemic that you're tired of. Put your focus on God. Put your trust on God. Don't put your eyesight on your situation. So yeah, I hope this word was a blessing to you like it was to my life. And yeah, God bless you.